Love it. All right. The next one. Uh, this is a philosophy one. This is going to be fun. Van, when we met last week, one of the things is that you said is that we're in a polarized society and you don't want to offend people so that you can help them.
Didn't we just talk about this?
We did, but it was before we hit the record button. Tom, you said you want to go ahead and offend 85% of the population so they leave you alone and find the 15%.
I'm going to shoot you.
And Jim, which way would you prefer to either be or coach your clients?
Oh, there you go. All right, Jim.
Sure. Let me start this war. Yeah, why not? That's all ideal. Listen. I don't think look. Here's the deal. I mean, as written, either of these things can be true, and that's not a problem. But here's the point. It's not really as written here anyway. I think it's better, in fact, that Tom talks about this because Tom wants to clarify this. And Tom, I think you should, because then we can have a real discussion about what's really going on here. Tom?
All right. So it was 2013 that I was introduced to Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek's 18-minute and 4-second video, Start With Why, changed my life. It changed my life. I was so mesmerized by his message. I wrote down every single word of his 18 minutes and 4 seconds. And my goal in life is to meet him, thank him, shake his hand, because since I have met of him, my income has quadrupled. And it's not because I got better. It's not because the product got better. It was internally what I could do for myself. I'm going to give you 2 quotes that changed my life. One of them is, people don't care what you do. They want to know what you do or why you do it, because what you do simply proves what you believe. Yet when we're asked, what do you do for a living? You always respond with what? People don't ask, what do you do for a living, except 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm trying to quickly find a way to dismiss you because I don't need your product or service. And the second reason, I am simply trying to fill a void space. I could care less what your answer is. I'm trying to be polite. So if somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? And those are the 2 choices you have, you better have something that's going to change someone's opinion. And the second thing he said, now everyone on this call, please listen carefully. As a salesperson, your job is not to go out and find people who need to buy the product you're trying to sell. Your job as a salesperson is to simply go out and find people who believe what you believe. The problem with our industry and the way that we are taught to be everything to everybody. We are taught to appease everyone. We are to be the chameleon. We put on a blue jacket to talk to those people, a red jacket to talk to those people, and we try to be someone that we are not, to appease someone we don't like. So I will give everyone on this call permission to go out and tell people what you believe. Lead with why you do what you do. And you will find one of 2 things. You will find people who will be attracted to that, and they will want to hitch their wagon because you have the passion to take us a place that I've not been, or you're a bloviating idiot. I don't like you. You're a braggart, and I think I will pass. My point is this, and it's been misunderstood, David, thank you. My point is this. I wrote a book on the explanation of services, how to answer the question, what do you do for a living? And within 15 seconds, I know if I have someone who believes as I do. It doesn't guarantee a sale, but it guarantees me that I can at least have a conversation with someone who believes as I do. And then the relationship can develop from that point. If I find out, I sat next to a billionaire on a flight from Nashville to Dallas. And I asked her, we were talking about taxes, and she looked at me, she had a diamond on her hand the size of a quarter. And she said, what if we don't mind paying taxes? I looked at her and I said, we are not a good fit. Now, 5 years ago, I would have sent her a leather, mind you, a leather-bound binder of every financial product and service I had, hoping to get an opportunity to talk to this woman. What did I do? I simply excused myself. We're just not a good fit. I need to find people who believe as I do. I gave up trying to appease everyone. That is a guaranteed way of failing. So it's not that I'm rude. It's not that I'm arrogant. It's just I have an agenda. I have an agenda to teach what I believe to everyone who wants to hear what I believe. My job is not to convince what's coming out of my mouth is anything they should do. That's the difference. Here's what I believe. Do you believe as I do? Yes, wonderful. We have an opportunity to work together. Doesn't guarantee anything. That's my point.
You know, I kind of say that Van's got a great point. Van, you know, when you talk, somebody will ask you the question, how can you tell whether or not you can sell somebody on the first interview? And you've got a way to figure out how that can work on that, how you can sell on the first interview. And I think that fits right in here. Do you know, does that make, am I making sense here? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, but see, I would approach it differently than Tom. I agree totally that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I go through a process. I've figured out how to do LEAP, the Power of Zero, Circle of Wealth, all of the, I can do them in 5 questions. Never takes me, I do not have any sales presentations that take longer than 15 minutes. If it takes longer than 15 minutes, I'm not going to inspire them anyway, because their attention span is approximately 8 seconds. The attention span of a goldfish is currently 9 seconds. And I ask an audience, I say, please, everybody that still reads books, will you raise your hands? And they do, and I say, do you ever forget what you've read when you get to the bottom of a page? And they go, everybody in the room raises their hand. And I say, well, that's your attention span. So I don't give big, long sales presentations. And what Tom is saying is, see, I don't have the personality to do what he does. So what I did is I figured out a way by asking these 5 questions. I'll just quick tell them, they take very quick. I ask a customer, I say, man, do you think taxes are going to be higher in the future? Just yes or no. And they go, yes. Now, please, I'm doing this very fast. When you do it with a customer, you're doing it. He said the magic word, please write it down. Tom said, so I can have a conversation. I don't do pitches. I don't do sales presentations. I have conversations with people about stuff that really matters. That's what I do for a living. So I said, do you think taxes will be higher in the future? Just yes or no. They go, yes. I say, do you think it's possible they could be way higher? They go, absolutely, I think they could. I say, can I ask you something? You have other advisors, you have an accountant, you have an attorney, you have all of these other people. And I bet you nobody has ever asked you this question before. Nobody. Are you ready? And they do it exactly that way. Are you ready? And they go, yeah. And they said, do you want to pay those taxes? Now, if the guy says, yeah, I don't mind paying the taxes. Normally, if you were Tom Love, you'd say, fine. Well, I have a 5-question presentation. So the second question would be, man, do you think benefits are going to be lower in the future? Higher deductibles, higher premium, more out of pocket. Doesn't that mean a lower standard of living for you and your family? Boy, what if there was a way that you could easily replace all those lost benefits? When would you want to do that, before or after you lose the benefits? And they say right away, I don't care about that. So you go to the third one. So if there's higher taxes and lower benefits, is that going to fix everything in our economy? Probably not. So I think this is the real dangerous one coming up. Isn't the government going to have to print more money? And what do you call that? And most people don't know. Please, it's inflation, but most agents don't know. Please learn this phrase if you get anything from what I'm talking about today. Start talking to people about reduced purchasing power of their money. This will affect, they're lying to you, the government. They're not going to income tax you, they're going to stealth tax you. They're going to reduce the purchasing power of your money. If you make 10 million a year or you make 10,000 a year, they're going to reduce the purchasing power of your money with all the money they're printing. So Mr. and Mrs. Customer, can I give you an example? If you have 7% inflation, you retire at age 65 on 50,000 a year, using the rule of 72. By the time you're 75, you'll need 100,000. By the time you're 85 years old, you'll need $200,000 a year. How are you going to get there? You're not working anymore. And so I believe the real hell on earth that's coming is this stealth tax. These guys are printing money like it's going out of style. So then there's a fourth one. So let me ask you something. If there's higher taxes, lower benefits, there's going to be inflation. They're going to print all this money. We're going to create more and more volatility. And I do just like that. And they go, yeah. And I say, well, so if you make a mistake, if you lose the money. I go, yeah. I say, if you make 5 mistakes, you lose a lot of money. Yeah. So what's your strategy to not be hurt by the bad volatility? And how could you take advantage of the good volatility? And finally, I tell them about Tom Hagna. I say, I only used to have 4 questions, and this man, Tom Hagna, who became an icon in their industry, he said, people are living longer and longer. And one of the things we don't ask people about enough is, what if you live too long? wouldn't that be not just only a risk, wouldn't it be a risk multiplier? So this is the way I ask the question. If you retire at 65 and you die at 70, are we gonna have any problems planning your retirement? Of course not. But if you retire at 65 and you live till you're 95 and you run out of money when you're 72 years old, and by the way, isn't 72 the new 52? Aren't 72-year-olds doing what 52-year-olds used to do? So what the heck would the rest of your life look like? And I say, you know what? Here's the punchline. All of those things, most of America thinks of them as challenges. What if you could sit down in your basement in the dark and go, I can't wait for them to happen, because you would be perfectly positioned to turn them into an opportunity rather than a challenge. If you knew that was possible, when would you want to get started? Now, believe it or not, I have people that say, I'm still not interested. I shake their hand, but I don't burn the bridge. I shake their hand and they say, well, you know, obviously I haven't inspired you. I apologize for wasting your time. This is 10 minutes. That's all. And then I say, but will you promise me you'll remember 2 questions? I never burn any bridges. And so I say, here's the first question. Promise me you'll remember that if all of this economy starts blowing up way bigger than we thought, and you don't get the advice, you don't get the help that you were thinking you were going to get from somebody else. And by the way, you want to know the truth? 90% of the time they're lying to me. They don't have anybody helping them. And so they're just trying to get rid of me. And so I say to them, if you don't get the help, remember, I can stop the bleeding immediately. Will you promise me you remember that? And here's the more important question. Promise me you'll remember. Once I stop the bleeding, what if we told you we could put you in perfect position to still take advantage of what's happening? Will you promise me you'll remember that? And I shake their hands. I go, got rid of this guy. I shake their hand. I say, man, it was so great to meet you. I really enjoyed my time with you. Thank you so much. I swear to you on my kids, 50% of the time, those people call me back when something bad happens because they were lying to me. And they lie to you too all the time. And so I'm doing it opposite of what Tom does. He has such a dynamic personality. Even right now, I'm intimidated watching him on a Zoom. Do you get this? But he can get away with that. I cannot. And so I developed this questioning system that allows me to walk them through a process. And if after that process, they can't find anything in those 5 questions that's of interest to them, I say goodbye. But I don't burn the bridge. And I move on to the next one. And that's how I'm able to run 8 to 10 appointments a day, because they're none longer than 15 minutes. So I hope that helps.
So there's 2 things here, David, I think the audience needs to remember. You've got 2 wildly successful advisors doing 2 things which apparently are diametrically opposed to each other. What does this mean for the average guy in the street? It means if you can do something I think Tom talked about, and I mentioned the same way, do something that you believe in, have your strategy, when you believe you have the courage of your own convictions, then you can do this too, but you have to have a plan. What we found during the pandemic is that people, advisors with a plan, rather with a planned process, with an actual process, whatever it was, did surprisingly better than those that were just wondering what they were doing. And I want to just say one other thing, and it relates to what Tom was talking about prospecting. Really, one of the things that changed the way I looked at prospecting and was helpful in changing the opinions of the advisors I work with, and I spent 40 years doing this, really is that prospecting is not so much finding buyers or believers as it is eliminating non-buyers and non-believers to find the believers. That means, and by the way, there's way fewer believers than there are non-believers. So you're doing your job when people say no to you, you're doing your job. If they say no, as the woman with the quarter-sized diamond on her hand said to Tom, it's not the right thing, that's okay, because that's the game. The game is eliminating non-buyers to find the buyers, the same as it is really for panning for gold. You're moving pay dirt to find the gold nuggets. And that one thing can change your perception of prospecting so you do it more willingly and you understand it better and it doesn't affect your emotions as much as it can.